Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution, and we don't have to say free Karmelo because Karmelo was free. But the fight is only beginning. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Let's get into the content. The fight is only beginning. The bootlicking, buck dancing, Greek freak shoe shiners and a masters is upset. Salute, salute, Queen, salute, family. The revolution is on the beginning. Y'all
We're up,
in the
we're up,
building.
we're up.
Karmelo, do you have anything that you'd like to say? Anything that you'd like to say to the victims, to the family of the victims? Why were you armed, sweetheart? Karmelo, why were you armed at school? Explain your self-defense. How is this self-defense?
Ain't nobody explaining shit. Like, who the hell you think you is? Look, you get knocked down right there. Ain't nobody going for that. Get your ass in line. See, she won a lawsuit. Somebody sued her. That's why she was so pushy. You know, we have tightened up the family. We're going to continue looking out for them. She's trying to go in their pocket. Excuse me, y'all. My bad. Gotta take that off the screen, man.
We're up,
All they live.
we're up.
Karmelo, do you have anything that you'd like to say? Anything that you'd like to say to the victims, the family of the victims? Why were you armed, sweetheart? Karmelo, why were you armed at school? Explain your self-defense. How is this self-defense?
Explain yourself. Lady, what the hell? What the lady think she is? Explain yourself. You used to have to do that. See, it used to be a time in America, especially the South, in Texas where I'm at, where a white lady could stop you and say, explain yourself. You better stop. You better not keep walking. What? They let you for that. Huh? It used to be a time where she could pull that shit and he would, hold on, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. Huh? What did you say, ma'am? This ain't today. They ignored it. She's nobody. You ain't getting a story later. Who the hell you think you is? You nobody. So, we see the young man came out of the belly of the beast. He was a political prisoner. That's politics, man. So he came out. Let's hear the lawyer speaking. And you know, a lot of racists is upset. They calling this lawyer a race traitor. Yeah, I heard that. They say this guy's a traitor to his race. I dare you defend that nigga. You yellow belly coward, you gonna defend that colored? That's what they're saying about this guy right here.
Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are two sides to every story. And Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to. This is a tragedy all the way around for both families. Rushing to judgment, trial by public perception and trial by media is not how we ensure justice is done. We are confident that after a full investigation, that the truth will come out. Thank you.
Mike, you took umbrage with the state's assessment that this was simple and brutal. Why so?
Well, the fact of the matter is, like I said, there's two sides to every story, and we've only heard one side. In any criminal case, the police investigate, and the defense is always far behind that. And so it is a one-sided investigation to this point, and even that investigation is still ongoing. So to say that it happened this way or that way is just not accurate at this point. All of the facts are going to come out, and that's why our system of justice requires that we keep our minds open and we let the facts come out as they are after a full investigation.
Is your client going to be able to make bond and get out today?
I anticipate that he will be able to make bond. I can't speak to how quickly that will go. Funds, in the funds that have been raised are not quick to come out. And then, there's obviously a process to the release process once bond is posted.
The big question that a lot of people have is, why was this young man armed on school property?
That's an understandable question, but it's not something that, frankly, we're prepared to even go into. This is something that I know the police and the prosecution want to get it right and want to have a full and fair investigation, and so do we. So it would be irresponsible for me or them at this point to start saying, this is what happened, this is why, anything. So I understand that's a big question. It's going to be a big question, and it's something that we will find out, and we ask that the public, as hard as it is, withhold judgment and let both of these families have justice, that let both of these young men, the Metcalf family and the memory of who they've lost, but also Karmelo, have a fair and full justice process.
How has he?
Your feeling on the reduction of this bond? Do you feel it's fair?
Yeah, I feel it's fair. Bond, as the judge said, is not supposed to be an instrument of oppression. It's not supposed to keep people in jail. It's not supposed to punish. It's supposed to ensure that a person shows up to court, complies with all conditions.
And that's a fact. That's a big fact. They have been committing illegal acts with those preposterous bonds that they just been using. They cannot punish you at a bond hearing. I've been through that. Been telling people that bond is not supposed to be used as a punishment. It's just supposed to assure that you come back to court, and if you're not a danger to the public, that's it. So many times they throw around ridiculous, outrageous bonds. That's illegal. You're not supposed to be doing that, but they do it anyway. So now the haters, big man, the judge had every right to drop that. That man has no criminal history. Zero. What the hell? $1 million bond. When first I said, these people nuts? $1 million bond. Because they felt like, come on now. That was preposterous.
And it's supposed to keep the community safe. So this is a large and substantial bond, and the judge has, I think, rightly imposed reasonable conditions that will ensure both Karmelo and the Anthony family's safety, but also the safety of the community.
What was Carmelo's reaction today? He didn't seem very talkative toward you, and how has jail, I guess, been so far for this teenager, and is he on suicide watch or anything like that?
I honestly can't speak to Karmelo's reaction because I was so focused on the hearing and what was going on and what the judge was saying. I think we have to all remember Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid who's never been in any sort of trouble before. If you can just put yourself in his shoes, this is a scary, bewildering process, and I can't even imagine what was going through his head, just as I'm sure I can't imagine what was going through the heads of the Metcalf family. So this is something that is new to all of them and incredibly trying.
So for people who want to know, why were you selected? I mean, what is your experience?
Well, revolutionary salute to my brothers, the Cosmos Deep, for the donation to the war chest. Revolution's Good Life. Absolutely appreciate the Dove family. Salute. He said, Hotep and Revolutionary salute to your court figure. Salute to you, brother, for helping me keep the lights on. Revolution is a way of life. Salute.
I mean, you had to be really good.
I can't speak as to why I was selected. In any case, it's important to have an attorney that you connect with, that that you feel has the right amount of experience and the right investment in the case. And I'm not speaking to anybody else. I just know that, that's important in any case.
Just how unsafe does this family feel? You mentioned it multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to speak for them at this point, but I think you can imagine the press coverage on this case has been immense, and the online and public reaction has been immense. And unfortunately, as is common in our culture, especially lately, the vitriol and the public reaction one way or the other has been intense. And threats and talk of race war and all kinds of insanity isn't good for, obviously, the Anthony family. It's not good for the Metcalf family. It's not good for the peace and safety of our community. So, I would ask, and I know both sides would ask, that the temperature on this be allowed to come down, that, the media, you guys have a job to do, and I understand that everyone does, but, at the same time, we just ask everyone in the public and everywhere to let this process play out fairly and fully for both sides. Okay, thank you guys.
Gary Michael Hilton was dubbed the National
All right, now we're going to go back and look at some of what the media was trying not to bring to the light, that social media, black social media, had to bring to the light, that helped propel this case to where it's at right now.
And the truth shall set you free. Oh my goodness. So one thing I will say that I find is humorous is racists accusing people of defending Karmelo Anthony due to the color of his skin. Oh, you're just defending him because he's black. And I have to say, the only time I hear this statement, this allegation, is usually from white ignorants. And they're usually from, white ignorants who know nothing about the history of this country. Because predominantly and historically speaking, the one main group that has been, let's say, racially divisive towards everyone else has been a certain group of white people. That's who it's been. Okay, when it comes to the laws, when it comes to segregation, when it comes to redlining, when it comes to loans, when it comes to a litany of things, when it comes to police brutality, this has been targeted towards a group of people solely off of the basis of the color of their skin. That's what that means. Now, I will argue that after, the first time someone gets a false arrest, that after the second time someone gets a false, allegation, that after the third time, the fifth time, after the 50 billionth time of, racists trying to target a black person and say, hey, he did this crime, and we all know that didn't happen based off of our previous track record. Yeah, more than likely, people are probably going to side with the black person. They're probably like, that probably didn't happen based off of what we know thus far, based off of previous accounts of this happening. Damn. I just find it interesting that the same people who are praising Daniel Penny are now vilifying Karmelo Anthony. Now, the only factor in this, just so we're clear, the only underlying common denominator in many of these cases, whether it's, Kyle Rittenhouse, whether it's, Amber Geiger, whether it's Ashley Babbitt, is that they're white. That's it. That's literally it. We have Ashley Babbitt, who everything wrong. You still have people trying to say, hey, the officer was in the wrong. Ashley Babbitt was in the right. You have Daniel Penny, black man. Now, I defended the homeless black man, not because he was black, but because it seemed a bit egregious to me that someone could take the life of another person who did no physical harm to anyone and didn't say anything threatening any individual on the train. As a matter of fact, that person was lied on from another person who said that they assaulted them, which turned out that wasn't the case. And I found it very perverse that there were so many people praising this man, including the President of the United States of America, having pictures with this man after he had just snuffed the life out of a homeless person who needed mental health. You know, the same thing that they claim whenever there's a white kid who shoots up a school. Well, the issue isn't the gun. The issue is mental health. That's what we need to focus on. It's not a shocker to me how, especially when it comes to the right, how they try to vilify and persecute a black person that they deem to be unworthy. If they happen to be, you know, part of the Sambo elite, okay, then they're okay. But if they happen to have actual, I don't know, thoughts of their own, if they're not peddling, anti-black propaganda, then they're a criminal. Then they're calling them a thug, right? We've seen this before. We saw this in Katrina, where one family can be like, well, they found food. Oh, nice white family found food. Where the black family, well, they just went and looted the store. That's what they did. And listen, I understand this, and I think many actual racists understand this as well. The only difference is we have a difference of opinion. They believe that's how it should be. There should be some favoritism. There should be some nepotism towards white people because they believe, hey, this is our country. This is how it should be. And I happen to disagree with that. I think as far as labeling people as racists and thugs and criminals and constantly promoting that to them, everywhere they go, that's probably not going to, have amicable results. Okay. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But nevertheless, getting into the crux of this video right now is that there is an eyewitness that has come out and has spoken his mind. Sure enough, I know that many people are going off the police report. I came across a police report too, and I want people to understand what a police report is. It's just an accounting of what the officer takes in at the scene at that time, right? It's not 100% fact-based. It's not 100% true because things change. People lie. Eyewitness, testimony can vary, and nothing that has been in the police report has been corroborated. So I just want people to just take it easy because I know people are going, the police report says that the police report. Calm down, calm down. Now, there's also a bias in which they view the police report, which is a confirmation bias to try and frame Karmelo Anthony as guilty. So they're scanning through it and see, oh, look at this. But an additional eyewitness came out and they give a very different story. A similar story that we've seen time and time again. Once again, pattern recognition, I'll say. I'm noticing a pattern of the same story is being told over and over and over again, which usually leads to some form of credibility. So you have this person who's saying, hey, that Karmelo, he was under the tent and he was on his phone or something, or he's doing something. And that Austin wasn't even under the tent at the time, right? It was pouring down rain. People are trying to get to their cars and whatnot. And Austin and apparently his brother come over to Karmelo. Words are exchanged. And he says they tried to swing at him. Karmelo goes to his bag and then they pursue. They continue on.
It was raining. They got rained out like crazy bad. Everybody trying to get back to their cars or get in, places where they, wouldn't get all extra wet. Dude was sitting up under the tent, right? He was on his phone, right? My daughters was up under the same goddamn tent. Yeah. So I'm paying attention to my kids, but at the same time, they're in the same vicinity. So I'm watching everything going on around it because I'm there for my children. So dude walks up, McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent at the time. They came from a whole separate tent and walked over there. They intentionally went over there to this kid, man. Dude was sitting there on his phone just trying to get dry. You feel me? One thing went from another. They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went in his bag and whatever. They went to try to jump this dude and punch on this dude, man. And he protected himself, dude. That's what happened. Yeah. It wasn't just one. It was both of them, bro. Austin, that dude that got unalive, and his brother physically went over there to intentionally. It's not to the point that he brought a knife. For one, it wasn't on school property. The school is at least 5 to 10 miles away. It was community track meet, bruh. It wasn't a school track meet.
Really track.
So he had the right to have a knife on his person, bro.
It's always going to be a different story than the main story that the racist right tries to promote. Always going to be a different story. We saw this when it came to Ahmaud Arbery. We're seeing the same thing when it comes to black victims. Always. Ahmaud Arbery, hey, he had a hammer. Hey, he was robbing people. Hey, he was, he charged a person and tried to take the gun from him. All this until we finally come out and we see there's video evidence. We have testimony, and we come to find out not only was it racially motivated, but then we come to find out that Ahmaud Arbery perished because of these two, ignorants. That's what happened, that they were guilty. Now, of course, when that happens, they deleted from the memory banks. All these racists, all these ignorants, they deleted from the memory banks. They just completely hit delete because it doesn't align with their, a racially charged worldview, unfortunately. So I just want people to understand the same thing is happening where they're trying to railroad Carmelo Anthony. Now, luckily, this is going to court, hopefully, unless they take a plea deal. But that's where we're at right now. And we have this testimony who's saying that, hey, he was assaulted. Now, people are bringing up the whole knife thing. I hear you. Under Texas, 5.5 inches, given the fact that he wasn't on school grounds, but he was at a school-related event, which then would consider, I believe it's a felony. Class 3, a three felony. Yes, that he would be guilty of. But he could be found guilty of that and then also get away with murder or manslaughter. 100%. That can absolutely possibly happen. And then when it comes to, class 3 felony, I mean, what are we looking at? Probation? What, house arrest? Do some community service? Yeah, I'll take that any day over a conviction over manslaughter or murder. Give me a break. Damn. As I said, what's happening is exactly what's happening. Is that is they're moving the goalposts, right? And they're moving the goalposts to the knife, which is, I said, what they would do. And they're asking, okay, why do you have a knife? The only reason he had a knife was if he wanted to commit a crime.
What?
Just foolishness, right? They have this mindset, and I've said this before, where it's like, hey, black person bad. So anything that comes out from this or of this, it has to fit in their narrow worldview of black person bad. So now, if a black person is carrying a gun, why they have a gun? Why are they walking down the street with a gun? Are they trying to rob somebody? Where if it's a white person walking with a gun, oh, Second Amendment, brother. That's right. Second Amendment. That's right. Absolutely. 2A, bro. 2A. And that comes from a perverse, racist mindset, a lineage of evil, as I call it, just a lineage of evil that just corrupts their brain. So it's the same thing, right? If it had been a white kid with a knife, people have been carrying knives since the beginning of time, right? They usually use it as a form of self-defense, whether it's a knife, a gun, bear mace, pepper spray, a litany of things, okay? And that's what he claimed he had it for, was for self-defense. He said, I was defending myself. In addition to that, he said it to the officer. In addition, on top of that, trying to label him as a thug in Frisco, Texas is wild, okay? That's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And him asking if the kid was okay, right? He asked the officer if he was okay. I mean, what are we talking about here, right? But they don't care about any of that. They don't care. That's what you have to understand, that there could be a video showing Austin with an AK-47 pointed at Carmelo Anthony's face, and you want to know what they would ask? What did Carmelo do to have it pointed at his face? Damn, that's the type of people that you're dealing with. So it's not about facts and evidence with them. They don't care what the facts and evidence are. They don't care. At the end of the day, that's where their caveman Neanderthal mindset goes to. Black person bad, black person guilty. There's no talking to them. It's just talking to a wall. When people talk about you can't use lethal force is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's the same thing we have when it comes to an officer, that they fear for their lives. It can't be in hindsight. It has to be taken into account of what happened at that time. So if Anthony is being attacked, he's already been assaulted, and you have two people, it's 2 versus 1. In addition to them being completely outweighed, he's outweighed by them, right? They weigh 200-something pounds or whatnot. Anthony's a very skinny kid. Then yes, a lawyer could actually argue that he had reasonable belief that he was going to have not immediate imminent death, because it's not imminent death, but also a serious bodily injury. Those are two factors that come into play. So if he absolutely believes that he's going to incur serious bodily injury, then yeah, pulling out a knife to defend yourself It's absolutely reasonable. It's absolutely can be seen as self-defense. But you can't tell it to these people because, once again, you know, caveman brain. Blood person bad. But we'll see, right? We'll see if we get to court, plea deal, what happens. Keep donating.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks to all my subs and supporters who watch, like, share, and comment on the videos. It's greatly appreciated. Anybody who would like to support the channel, the link to my book, The N-Word is No Secret in the Service, is in the description of every video. We also have the Runaway Slave store, link in the description. Go grab yourself a souvenir or something like that. Let's cook. Big shout out to LG for inspiring this video right here. And also big shout out to the brother Introverted Rockstar channel. Please go follow that channel if you haven't already. I believe this is where LG got this information from, and it came from a TikTok channel called Lamont.Sandiford64. And this video by Lamont.Sandiford64 may explain why these Metcalf boys were such bullies in Texas, okay? Why did they go around looking for trouble, picking fights? Why do they destroy people's property and jump people? Maybe it comes from their dysfunctional home.
They doing every fucking thing they can possible to find dirt on Karmelo Anthony and his family, and it's pissing them off that they can't. That family is spotless. Other than these fucking videos that they're trying to flash on social media of Karmelo Anthony giving the finger and possibly maybe holding up a fake plastic gun. Other than that stupid shit, the media can't find shit on Karmelo Anthony and his family. They want so bad to drag that family through the fucking mud so they can look bad on them come trial time. How many times you seen a black celebrity get arrested, then go to court and sit in front of a jury that's not of his peers? That's exactly what's gonna fucking happen to Karmelo Anthony if we don't get on the ball and try to find some evidence to clear this fucking kid. I'm the only fucking one pushing this. I'm the only one on social media pushing the father. I'm the only one on social media blaming the father. In 2011, Jeffrey Metcalf was arrested for SA. Those twins was 4 years old at the time. Shortly after that, the mother, Megan, packed up those fucking twins and got the fuck out of that house. Let's put the blame on him. Let's blame him for his son not being here. We need to shift focus. I don't mind dragging a Metcalf through the fucking mud if I can save Karmelo Anthony's fucking life. There's some shit going on with this guy, and the world needs to see it. I'm the only one on social media pushing this shit. I'm begging and I'm asking for help to push this narrative. He's hiding something. He's fucking hiding something. What if, just what if he, to those, and maybe those boys are the way they are because of what the father. Yep. I would harbor resentment for the rest of my fucking life. Maybe those boys had to grow up a little bit faster than other 17-year-olds.
And big up to that brother right there, and I agree. And let me tell you something, people. The mother, the Metcalf mother, the Metcalf twins, that's a white American woman right there. White women do not go leaving a white American man for that one charge right there. Oh, he got caught doing that. It makes me believe that she told him probably in the past to get himself together for his boys, try to work on his illness that he has in the heart. And he probably just kept on doing it. And she finally said, enough. You just got hit with this other charge or whatever. In addition to all the other breaks he probably got in the things that she know about. She probably said, we got boys to raise. I got to go. I got to get out of here. That's what I believe, okay? That's what I believe. So there we go, people. We have the media. We have the American mainstream doing everything in their power to defame Karmelo Anthony and his family. This is a young man who was a great student athlete, great young man. This is somebody who was out saving lives, you know, putting his life on the line to save lives as a young kid. Great character. Everybody likes him. He was physically assaulted by the Metcalf twins as he was minding his business, defending himself with a knife. Unfortunately, Austin Metcalf passed away. Condolences to his family. Okay, he was a kid, you know, made a mistake, did the wrong thing, made a bad decision in his life, and he didn't get a second chance to correct it. And this happens in our neighborhoods all the time, people. It happens all the time. Okay? And yes, just like that brother said, who created that video, I'm going to do my part with what I have to keep this out here. I'm going to do my part, okay? Because I also see what they're trying to do. It does get exhausting sometimes when you see these things, you know, a $1 million bill, absolutely ridiculous. You know, Texas, ridiculous.
Ridiculous. And illegal.
Not going to have a jury of his peers unless we push for it. It's ridiculous, man. But people, do what you can. You're a content creator. Put that out there. They have a narrative that they have running with, that they're running with. Let's put ours out there because ours is grounded in truth. You know what I'm saying? You can send a little donation, even if it's $1, $100, whatever. Send that if you could. If you can't, okay. You know what I mean? But keep it positive on this. This family is going to need everything that they can get for protection, not just legal fees. They already have more than enough for the legal fees, okay? They already have more than enough for the legal fees, but there's more going on to this situation. Protection for the family, moving around, who knows, probably homeschool tutoring for the other children, because it's going to get deep and real with threatening the white community, threatening them and things like that and other people. This is what they do. They're going to perform Pell Voltron. They're going to come together and start to harass black people in that area. They've already started, though. I mean, it would be un-American of them if they didn't. This is what the white community does. But that's how it goes, people. We got to keep this out there because ours is grounded in truth. Anyway, get in the comments. Let me know what you know or think about this. Do you live in this area in
Here's the story of a girl named Megan who was young, single, and ready to leave home. Had no idea of how she was gonna do it, but her plan was to leave. Then one day, Megan met Jeff. He saw her and knew it was right. The first words was, "Girl, you're thick as cold grits. Can I have your number?" Megan said to Jeff, "What are you saying? Are you saying that you like me?" He said, "Yes, if I can get your number, I will call you soon." You see, I'm a realtor here in Texas. That's what Jeff said to Megan. Megan eyeballs had that dollar sign and said ching ching. And she knew she was the one who was gonna get a new house and an umbrella that said security. That Megan thought that she found the one and everything all right. The relationship went good for a while. And then Megan came to say, she said, "Jeffrey, I think I may be pregnant with not one, but two." Jeffrey said, "What the fuck are you talking about? I have a career and this is not what I want." Megan said, "You should have used a Jimmy, and I'm keeping these kids."
And look, I'm showing the last part of that clip at the end of this video, and it looks like he had more than those SA charges. And just to remind y'all, on this channel, we hold racist Caucasian people accountable. So if you're not racist, this belt is not for you. Now, look, my people, we can no longer trust these news outlets. We have to start using these platforms ourselves to bring awareness. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them. See, they want us to get caught up in entertainment and overlook all the real issues that's going on in our community. So we have to start being more self-reliant. And look, by now, y'all know me. I was doing more research, and I can't believe I overlooked this. Run the tapes.
He always was one to step up and be the person that would do the right thing. And he was doing the right thing by saying to this gentleman that you're not supposed to be in this tent. This is like because they have personal items there.
And I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have? What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet and he murdered my son by stabbing him in the heart.
It's pedophile, right?
The guy was in the wrong place. They asked him to move.
Damn, the audacity. This woman sat there and basically said that Karmelo was under that tent to steal, that he came under that tent to sit there and steal. Make it make sense. And this dude said these words. Let's read. He said, "I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have? What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet." So I said, wait. Let's start off with the knife first. I'm going to say this again. In the South, black and white young men carry pocket knives like they carry cell phones. You even have people that take their pocket knives to church because you never know. Tell me I'm lying. And see, that knife is not the important part. Why did your twins attack Karmelo? Why did your twins touch Karmelo? Those are the questions we should be asking. And then you had the audacity, you had the nerves to diss Karmelo's parents. And I told you, Jeff, you can't be doing that, man. Pull up the files. Jeffrey Metcalf, in 1984, you were speeding. In 1992, you were speeding again. In 2011, you caught the SA charge, which was a second-degree felony. Now, let's go back to those questions. But this time, let me ask you, what kind of parents did those twins have? What was they taught? And look, I know it's the past, but you have to realize if Karmelo's dad had these charges, even if just speeding on his record, it will be all over TV. It will be all over social media. So that's why on my channel, I just keep the same energy, partner. This family and the news outlets are trying to sway the jury right now with faces. He thought that he can wear a shirt that says God over all things and another shirt that says faith over fear without me noticing the scam. And not just that, the media is so cold with it. You had the cameraman zooming in and out just to show people what his shirt said. So you'll have people saying, oh, he's very religious. Oh, he's telling the truth. I'm telling you, the media is cold. But the rabbit hole gets deeper. Check this out. See, we all know that she hates her ex-husband. But guess what? He raised 340K. She only raised 170K. So I said all that to say this. Everything you saw on those news outlets in those interviews from this family was all acting, was all Hollywood. I mean, of course, they said that their son died, but if you want to be for real, it was all competition. Competition to see who can be more dramatic, who can earn the most money, make it make sense. And see, with this racist system, they try to play chess against our people. So that's why I always say sometimes you have to sit back, be quiet, and use your common sense. He's a real estate agent. He raised over 340K. He can do that. He can sell you anything. He can fake cry on demand. He can fake like he's mad on demand. He can say, oh, I forgive him. He can do that all on demand because it's all acting. And she only raised 170K. I'm telling you, later on in this case, I'm going to keep watching, but that's going to be a problem because when the last time you saw one family had two separate GoFundMe accounts when one of their kids died? Make it make sense. But what they really mad at, Karmelo raised over 400K, and today he got a bond reduction for 250K. So he's on the way home. And look, I'm going to be honest. In my opinion, Karmelo can beat this case. This family is dysfunctional and divided. Karmelo's family has been together for over 17 years. I'm telling you, that plays a huge factor. A family that's together and have the support of the people they can't lose. So to Karmelo's family, we stand with you. And just like I promised y'all, here's the other half of that clip. I'm out.
So prior to the big delivery, the two got married and tried to work it out. But things just wasn't the same. Cause Megan knew Jeffrey's intentions was not to have a family. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? I can keep going on and on. Then one day after Jeff went to work, Megan was peeping after thresholds and the blinds to make sure the car was out of the driveway so she can go on her treasure hunt. Once she was sure that the car was down the street, she went to Jeff's bedroom to look around. She looked under the mattress and in the closets and in his pants to see if she can find something on him. Her feelings wasn't feeling of good feelings. She knew that he had done something in his past. She didn't know what, but she was determined to find out if it was the last thing she'd do. Then one day them twins came and said to Mama, they said, Mama, Jeff is not acting like a daddy. Mom said, what? What, kids? What are you talking about? Let me go and talk to him. Jeff, my kids say you're acting funny. Is that something you want to talk to me about? Just a girl, what the fuck are you talking about? This just my persona now. Listen, those two got some shit in their closet. That Jeffrey,
Oh man, so Carmelo Anthony and the Anthony family just received some good news as his bond has been reduced, and also they have agreed to allow him to be on house arrest, okay? Now, this is his lawyer speaking. We're going to tap in with him and see what he has to say about the situation.
Is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are two sides to every story. And Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to. This is a tragedy all the way around for both families. Rushing to judgment, trial by public perception and trial by media is not how we ensure justice is done. We are confident that after a full investigation, that the truth will come out. Thank you.
Mike, you took umbrage with the state's assessment that this was simple and brutal. Why so?
Well, the fact of the matter is, like I said, there's two sides to every story, and we've only heard one side. In any criminal case, the police investigate, and the defense is always far behind that. And so it is a one-sided investigation to this point, and even that investigation is still ongoing. So to say that it happened this way or that way is just not accurate at this point. All of the facts are going to come out, and that's why our system of justice requires that we keep our minds open and we let the facts come out as they are after a full investigation.
Is your client going to be able to make bond and get out today?
I anticipate that he will be able to make bond. I can't speak to how quickly that will go. Funds, in the funds that have been raised are not quick to come out. And then, there's obviously a process to the release process once bond is posted.
The big question that a lot of people have is, why was this young man armed on school property?
That's an understandable question, but it's not something that, frankly, we're prepared to even go into. This is something that I know the police and the prosecution want to get it right and want to have a full and fair investigation, and so do we. So it would be irresponsible for me or them at this point to start saying, this is what happened, this is why, anything. So I understand that's a big question. It's going to be a big question, and it's something that we will find out, and we ask that the public, as hard as it is, withhold judgment and let both of these families have justice, that let both of these young men, the Metcalf family and the memory of who they've lost, but also Karmelo, have a fair and full justice process.
How has your feeling on the reduction of this bond? You feel it's fair?
Yeah, I feel it's fair. Bond, as the judge said, is not supposed to be an instrument of oppression. It's not supposed to keep people in jail. It's not supposed to punish. It's supposed to ensure that a person shows up to court, complies with all conditions, and it's supposed to keep the community safe. So this is a large and substantial bond, and the judge has, I think, rightly imposed reasonable conditions that will ensure both Karmelo and the Anthony family's safety, but also the safety of the community.
What was Carmelo's reaction today? He didn't seem very talkative toward you. And how has jail, I guess, been so far for this teenager? And is he on suicide watch or anything like that?
I honestly can't speak to Carmelo's reaction because I was so focused on the hearing and what was going on and what the judge was saying. I think we have to all remember Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid who's never been in any sort of trouble before. If you can just put yourself in his shoes, this is a scary, bewildering process. And I can't even imagine what was going through his head, just as I'm sure I can't imagine what was going through the heads of the Metcalf family. So, this is something that is new to all of them and incredibly trying.
So for people who want to know, why were you selected? I mean, what is your experience? I mean, you had to be really good.
I can't speak as to why I was selected. In any case, it's important to have an attorney that you connect with, that you feel has the right amount of experience and the right investment in the case. And I'm not speaking to anybody else. I just know that that's important in any case.
Just how unsafe does this family feel? You mentioned it multiple times.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to speak for them at this point, but I think you can imagine the press coverage on this case has been immense, and the online and public reaction has been immense. And unfortunately, as is common in our culture, especially lately, the vitriol and the public reaction one way or the other has been intense. And threats and talk of race war and all kinds of insanity isn't good for, obviously, the Anthony family. It's not good for the Metcalf family. It's not good for the peace and safety of our community. So, I would ask, and I know both sides would ask, that the temperature on this be allowed to come down, that the media, you guys have a job to do, and I understand that everyone does, but at the same time, we just ask everyone in the public and everywhere to let this process play out fairly and fully for both sides. Okay, thank you guys.
So let things play out fairly and fully. All right. So that was Mike Howard, the attorney, speaking for Karmelo Anthony and his family. So to go over the details once again, Judge Angela Tucker ruled Monday morning to lower the bail for Karmelo Anthony, 17 years old, from $1 million to $250,000 with conditions that include being under house arrest and wearing an ankle monitor. So Anthony has been in custody on a murder charge since April 2nd, when he was arrested and accused of killing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at District 11-5A track meet at Frisco's David Kakundu Stadium. Sorry if I said that wrong, but Anthony told police he was acting in self-defense. So it says factors considered in court Monday included Anthony's age, lack of criminal history, and ties to the community. Those included several family members, close friends, a football coach, and a manager from one of Anthony's part-time jobs who showed up to the hearing. On the Metcalf side of the courtroom, which was also full, Megan Metcalf, Austin's mother, bowed her head and cried as the decision came down. Now, this is the judge right here, Miss Angela Tucker, and you can only imagine the replies. Matter of fact, let's just show you, all right? Can anybody guess why? Blacks always stick together. I bet she hates Whitey. Now, if you know anything about black folks, hey, I appreciate the kind words, but blacks always stick together. I wish. As general rule, black woman judge equals race activist. Every race can have activist judges except whites. If you're upset about this now, just wait until the trial by jury. Of course she did. What do you expect from a black broad? DEI hire. Never trust a black judge to give a fair sentence to a black criminal, especially if it's a woman. It's crazy because if you listen to a lot of black men, they will tell you you should be scared of a black woman judge. Like, it's crazy the different narratives that are spun for whatever the occasion may be. Niggas have no respect for the law. Why are they allowed to become judges? Of course, a rigor judge looking out for their own. Karmelo should never see the light of day again. Damn, if this is judging the case, they might as well let him off. You're about to see blatant corruption from the world's greatest judicial system. May I have mercy on Miss Tucker. Miss Tucker, good luck, all right? And here goes a news report summarizing the situation right here.
Within the last hour, a judge granted the request to lower the bond for a North Texas teen facing capital murder charges. 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony is...
That's not true. You see how even the news can be wrong? Even this reputable ABC News says that he's facing capital murder charges. We just seen that that's not true. Previous video, we heard the DA said that he's facing simple first-degree murder charges, not capital murder. Totally different, but you see how the news alone could be wrong. You can't trust any source nowadays, dog. Once again, running back.
Within the last hour, a judge granted the request to lower the bond for a North Texas teen facing capital murder charges. 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony is accused of stabbing and killing another student at a track meet in Frisco. Anthony claims he acted in self-defense. Chris Sadgi live from the courthouse in McKinney. And Chris, the judge heard from Anthony's family this morning before making her decision.
Yeah, Kara, this hearing just wrapped up about 30 minutes ago. In it, we heard from Carmelo Anthony's father. He testified about his son, and in the end, the judge did decide to lower the bond from $1 million to $250,000. Carmelo Anthony entered the courtroom handcuffed, wearing a yellow inmate jumpsuit. He spoke only to identify himself to the judge and stared straight forward while his father, Andrew Anthony, testified about how his son is the oldest of 4 siblings, a straight-A student, active in his church, and worked 2 jobs while serving as captain of the football and track team. To this point, he's not had any criminal history. All factors his defense brought up when asking the judge to lower the bond. The amount they were asking for was $150,000. The prosecution, though, argued the bond should have stayed at $1 million, even asking Andrew Anthony about the online fundraiser that's raised $412,000 for his son's defense. Ultimately, though, the judge said the purpose of bond is not a punishment, but to ensure the defendant returns for his court dates and to protect the community. If Anthony does post the $250,000 bond, he will be on house arrest, confined to his home with a leg monitor, and cannot leave unless the court grants permission. Asked by Judge Angela Tucker if he understood the terms of the bond, Carmelo Anthony simply said yes. Austin Metcalf's family, the victim's family, was in the courtroom. It was a packed courtroom, not a seat to be had, and the judge did acknowledge the amount of scrutiny on this case, not only from the media, but the general public, pointing out that she's presided over many murder trials involving many different races, and that she has never seen the amount of security precautions having to be taken by deputies as what they're seeing in this case. Kara, back to you.
Wow. Hey, man, things get crazy, huh? So this is the district attorney, Greg Willis. Let's see what he got to say.
Good morning, everybody. There's not much I can say, but the judge. Sorry.
Can you come this
All right.
way?
Sure.
Okay, that's fine, right there.
All right. There's not much I can say. The judge has made the call, and so what's important is what's next. Frisco PD will be finishing up their investigation. They will submit the case to my office. We will review it and ultimately present it to a grand jury. And so that's what's next. That's really much. It's pretty much all I can say right now. We do our speaking in as far as the facts go in the courtroom. Many of you were in there, so you understand what was said. But this is a terrible tragedy for our entire, not just Frisco, but Collin County community. One family has suffered a permanent loss. It's the most unnatural thing for a parent to lose their child. It's permanent. It's profound. It's certainly premature. And it's the hardest thing that I think a human being can go through is to lose their child. The Anthony family has had a different kind of loss, but a loss nonetheless. But the judge has made her call, and we look forward to continuing the process and looking forward to reviewing all the facts of the case that Frisco PD is coming up with.
I bet you trying to
and present it to a grand jury. What we're concerned about as prosecutors is justice, truth, and accountability.
No, you ain't.
And so we will go where the facts lead us. Thank you so much.
Could you speak about the security and the vitriol and just the safety even for the judge and your officer?
Well, this has definitely rocked our entire community. And so it has struck a nerve in the community. And it's hard for everybody to be level-headed at a time like this. So that's where we come in. It's our job to be level-headed.
So I'm saying it's hard for people to be level-headed. What they talking about doing? You see what I'm saying? What do they want to do? Some good old boy justice, man. Please, bitch, don't play stupid.
Act-based and to follow the truth wherever it leads. Thank you so much.
People to be level-headed and, like, y'all better convict them or else. Shit, or else what?
And what is your title?
That dude trying his best to be as fair as possible. I'll give it to him. He's trying his best to be fair. Even in the other situation, he was as cut and dry as possible. But you know how these things go. When it's time for court and shit, that's when people turn up. That's when they turn up. So, hey, man, that's what Greg Willis has to say. As of now, I'm just keeping my word as to keeping you guys updated with what's going on with the Carmelo Anthony case. All I'm asking for is a fair process for the young man. I know it's going to be tough as far as the road that's ahead, but at least he has a fair process in the meantime. So, hey, I know he's going to be home and watching all these YouTube videos, people talking about him because it's overwhelming, or maybe he just want to avoid everything. But if he does happen to be watching, brother, I understand the situation that you was put in. I know you probably having second thoughts about your actions. It is what it is now. Just pray, just keep your head down, and let the process play out. You have a lot of support from the community. Try your best not to beat yourself up too bad, and take whatever you can as an opportunity to continue to improve yourself as a young man. You feel me? Tough situation. It is what it is, though. But y'all let me know what you got to say in the comment section below.
Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now, today is going to be a follow-up video to one I dropped the other day entitled Black Conservative Defends Carmelo Anthony. White conservatives lose their minds. Now, in that video, I was reacting to fellow content creator Anthony Brian Logan, ABL, Black conservative media personality, and he was giving his thoughts and reactions on the entire Austin Metcalf Carmelo Anthony situation. And he had shocked a lot of people, including many members of his audience, because he actually decided to sit back and examine the situation, and he didn't automatically jump with the narrative that was set from day one. Even before we had all the information, you had many white conservative bloggers and media personalities that had already set an agenda. The white victim and the black aggressor, right? The innocent church boy, the all-American football star was minding his business, going to the ice cream truck, and then the black savage jumped out the bushes and stabbed him in the chest, right? That was a narrative set from day one. And they used that narrative to indict the entire race of black men. So black men in Ghana, black men in Senegal, black men in Brooklyn, black men in Jamaica, black men in Alaska. The entire race of black men was indicted because of a false narrative that was set from day one. And as we got more information, we actually realized that the narrative that they set, the white victim and the black aggressor, it was deeper than that, right? We actually found out that the victim, unfortunately, he was the one that initiated the altercation, the verbal altercation, and then escalated it to a physical altercation, which unfortunately led to him being neutralized. But anyway, so we have Tim Pool, right? Tim Pool, prominent conservative media personality. Now, I'm not all the way familiar with Tim Pool. Of course, I know the name. I know he has a massive audience, but you know, like I stay in my own lane. I stay in my own zone. So I don't be going into these different neighborhoods and things like that. So, but Tim Pool, I know he's a big deal. Now, earlier today, he was on social media and he said this: I don't care about conservative tribal outrage. And then he posted a screenshot of the police report. Now, just the other day, I dropped a full video breaking down the entire police report. Go check it out. Man, they going crazy in the comment section. Oh, man, they mad. We're going to go through some of them comments later on in this video. Oh, man, they so mad. But like I said, their narrative that they set at the beginning, you know, the innocent church boy going down to play at the park and he got stabbed by the black savage, that narrative crumbled immediately once we got more information. When it was found out that Austin, the victim, unfortunately, he was the aggressor, and the suspect, he was actually the one playing defense. Now, I'm going to get into the clip. I'll be right back.
What is it? Nothing matters but this. He was at a school event at the wrong team's tent with a knife. He clearly chose murder than to walk away, cut and dry here. Nope, wrong. Imagine you are invited to a party at someone else's house, and you are legally carrying a firearm. And then a fight breaks out, and or like an altercation breaks out between you and some guy, and you know there's drinking involved or whatever. I'm not trying to make a 1-for-1 scenario. I'm trying to create a potential scenario separate from this one with similarities. You go to a party. Let's say you go to a party, and some guy starts saying stuff like, "Yo, man, get out of here." And you're like, "I can do what I want. I was invited to the party." Verbal altercation escalates, and then the dude You're standing there and you pull your sweater back and you've got a gun. You put your hand up and say, don't come close to me, bro. I'm warning you right now. Do not come close. Do not take another step. Then the guy grabs your arm and makes a move. So you draw your weapon and you use it. Okay. Make the argument. You have no right to defend yourself when you're being attacked by a guy. Make the argument. By all means, go ahead and do so. I ain't going to do it. I don't know the circumstances. You can argue that you're in a place you're not supposed to be. You can argue it's that guy's house, and it doesn't matter. A guy can invite you into your neighbor could be like, come on over, brother. And then if he gets physical with you, you can defend yourself. Okay, make the argument. You have no right to defend yourself when you're being attacked by a guy. Make the argument. By all means, go ahead and do so. I ain't going to do it.
All right, we back. Now, the one thing I'll push back on Tim Pool in his example is this incident we're talking about did not take place on private property, on Austin's property, or something that belonged to his family, right? This is a track event, and Karmelo himself was a track athlete. Now, my position on the topic is this. Keep your hands to yourself, man. Because in his examples, Tim Pool said, oh, when you go to somebody's house and he puts his hands on you, or you go to your neighbor's house and he gets physical with you. My position is this. Don't get physical with nobody, bro. Don't put your hands on nobody, bro. It could all be so simple. I swear to God, it could all be so simple. And really, it's like a bulletproof argument. Because if you tell somebody to keep your hands to yourself and they try to actually give an opposing argument, inevitably, they're going to sound stupid because they're trying to express why they believe that they have a right to put their hands on you. And once you back them into that corner, it's really hard for them to come out. But like I said, these were things we should have learned as children, right? These are basic concepts and principles, right? Like as a child, I was taught that. Keep my hands to myself. When you walk into a room, shake the men's hand, kiss the ladies on the cheek. Don't interrupt the adults. Be respectful to your elders. When you're eating at the table, make sure you got proper table manners, right? These are basic things you should have learned as a young boy. You know, I don't understand it. That's what I've been telling them white conservatives in my comment section. But anyways, man, let's take a look at some of these reactions on social media. This person said, Tim Pool is garbage. And I've known he's garbage for a long time now. Oh, man, they about to do him like ABL. Remember how they did ABL in my video the other day? Oh, my goodness. This person said, you were the one who deserved the knife in the chest, not Austin. Oh, my goodness. This person said, Karmelo went to a track meet he was not part of to look for someone to stab while he looted the tents. It isn't hard to understand. Why does Tim feel like it's necessary to double down and protect the murderer? Now, first things first, that's false. I believe that Karmelo was on track and field. And number two, this is just speculation. I don't know where he came up with this information. I read the entire police report, and not once did any eyewitness reports or anybody come up to the police and say that this guy was looting the tents, right? Listen, man, like I said, they just be making up scenarios in their head. Anyway, let's continue. This person said, I see an argument on both sides, but I do find it interesting how conservatives are not even acknowledging that Austin should have kept his hands to himself. Now, here's the thing. The reason why is because in their heart of hearts, they truly believe that Austin had a right to put his hands on the boy. Like, that's what they believe. And they also believe that Karmelo should have taken whatever Austin was ready to give him, right? That's what they believe. They're not going to outright say it out loud, but that's what they believe. They believe that Austin had a right to do whatever he did, whether he grabbed you or pushed you or shoved you or threw you off the top rope, right? And you were supposed to sit there and eat that. That's what they believe. Now, of course, when it comes to them, they would never allow somebody to do that to them. Of course not. You're crazy. Of course not. But you, Karmelo Anthony, you were supposed to sit there and eat that. Anyway, let's continue. This person said, in every state, physically grabbing somebody is assault. That doesn't mean you should kill someone for grabbing you, and there are multiple ways to handle a situation, but it is assault. This person said, as a libertarian, I support the physical removal of all trespassers. Use of force need only be limited by the trespasser's cooperation. Now, this is really what we're dealing with, right? I think this guy says he's a libertarian, but I think a lot of the, so-called, conservatives feel the same exact way too, right? So when you tell them keep your hands to yourself, instead of just sitting back and be like, you know what, bro, you're right. You're right. We should all just keep our hands to ourselves, man. I think you're right, man. You're right. No, they're actually trying to come back with opposing arguments about why, even if I choose not to keep my hands to myself, you have to give me the honor and respect of me dictating to you the level of force you are allowed to reciprocate. And that's the mentality of somebody who lives their life on offense. You see, like when it came to me, I said, I live my life on defense. I'm a chill guy. I'm laid back. I don't got no beef, man. I don't got no problems. I'm not going to put my hands on somebody I don't even know. I'm not going to start verbal and physical altercations with strangers, right? I live my life on defense, right? But when you live your life on offense, you have to go around telling people how much force you can give back to me because you already know that I'm going to go on the assault. I'm going to go on offense. I'm going to go on the attack. So because I'm a person who goes on the attack, I have to regulate others and let them know, listen, when I go on the attack, don't go too hard on me, right? Because these people, that's the mentality. They live their life on offense. So that's why when they see stories like these, you know, they're flabbergasted. When I see a story like this, I don't feel no way. Because if I see somebody taking shelter under the rain under my tent, I'm not going to walk up on them in an aggressive stance. I'm not going to walk up on them ready for battle. I'm going to be like, hey, bro, what's up, man? Hey, where you from? Oh, you from around here? Oh, man, my name is Nefakari. What about you? Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. Oh, you know such and such? Oh, yeah, that's my homie. Oh, yeah. Oh, so you from around here, bro? Oh, bet. Yeah. I'm a chill, laid back dude. My first instinct is not violence. But when you're somebody who lives your life on offense and you go on the attack, you have to tell people, hey, listen, don't stab me, bro. Don't shoot me, bro, because I'm going to go on the attack. So when I go on the attack, please don't hurt me. But you would not have to worry about any of this if you are somebody who stayed in your lane, you are friendly, respectful, diplomatic. You don't got to worry about these things, man. But anyway, let's continue. I want to get into some of the comments that I got in my comment section on my videos on the topic, right? This person came into the comment section. He said this: Americans are sick of you people, and no one believes the innocent black baby angel card anymore. I was like, keep your crusty hands to yourself and teach your little barbarians to do the same. I don't care what you feel about my people. Just keep your hands to yourself. And then he said, you think we're afraid to take you out? Now, listen, all I said was keep your hands to yourself. He talking about taking my life. Like I said, these people live their life on offense. They live their life on the attack, on the assault. All I said was, listen, bro, just keep your hands to yourself. He said, bro, I'll take you out. That's crazy. Let's continue. This person said, moral of the story, the black culture has lowered the bar for taking another person's life. I was like, who cares about your opinion on black culture? Just keep your hands to yourself. Just keep your crusty hands to yourself and teach your offspring to do the same. That's a golden rule I follow. That's why I'm alive and I'm eating a nice dinner. And your boy is currently, I'm not gonna finish what I said. I'm not gonna finish what I said. I'm not gonna listen. I gotta relax, man. I gotta relax. Anyway, let's continue. This person said, us track athletes from different schools interact with each other. It's the football and basketball players who think everybody is the enemy. Now, this brother came into my comment section and he said that he runs track. And, you know, it's common for the track athletes from different schools, different teams, different organizations to be, you know, kicking and having conversation and just mixing and mingling, right? It's no beef, right? And in fact, in the police report, if you remember, if you watch my video breaking down the entire police report, one of the eyewitnesses from the different schools has said that, oh, yeah, you know, I know such and such who knows Karmelo from the different school. Like, so it wasn't like the kids and the athletes from different schools don't interact. So he said, you know, track athletes, you know, we interact all the time. We kick it, we mix and mingle. It's only the ball players, the football players and the basketball players who are always trying to be antagonistic and think everybody is the enemy. Now, when I came up, the sport that I was playing, I played soccer, right? When I was 14, 15, 16, I thought I was going to be the next Ronaldinho out here. I thought I was going to be somewhere out in Spain, somewhere out in London doing my thing. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. But thank God it didn't pan out because I much rather get money off my intellect than off my physical capabilities. But that's besides the point, right? Even in soccer, it's very common for us to mix and mingle because you had your school team that you played for, and then you had the club team that you played for. So sometime during your varsity games in high school, you might actually play against some of your teammates from the club team. So it's very common during those games, you go over to the other side. Oh, what's up, bro? You know, I'm about to kill you today, right? You know, I'm about to get you, right? Bet I'm gonna see you on the field, bro. You already know what it is. So it's very common for us to mix and mingle. So like he said, when it comes to track, it's common for the athletes to interact, the different students to interact. And like I said, during that day, it was raining very heavily. It was pouring down rain. So I'm of the opinion that he probably just took shelter under the nearest tent, not thinking anything of it. He's not thinking, man, this dude about to come in, you know, or get up in my face and get aggressive. Nobody thinks that, right? Because in Karmelo's mind, you know, keep my hands to myself, keep your hands to yourself. But unfortunately, Austin himself was not taught that. But anyway, somebody responded under that comment and they said this: so true. In all my years, we always visited every spot. If you even look at the actual pros, they do the same. Some even train together. But if you leave it to the world, they're supposed to be enemies. And the person below him said, I'm 44, and you're absolutely correct. The person below him said, I ran track, and at every meet, we would be under everybody's tent because we had friends on other teams, so it's a natural thing. This person said, I can confirm this. I played football and ran track. it was never unusual to see kids from different schools under our tents when it would rain. Now, somebody came into my comment section and the comment was very short and to the point, but it's still I was still kind of taken aback when I thought about it, right? He basically said that Austin passed away because he didn't want to share a tent with somebody else during the rain. Like I said, go check out my video where I broke down the police report. But yeah, man, basically because he didn't want to share a tent with somebody else during the rain, you know, he got violent, he got aggressive, he stood up, grabbed the dude, pushed him out into the rain, out of the tent. Like, goddamn, you know, my man died for some foolishness. Anyways, man, let's get into some of these comments that I got in my comment section, right? This person said this: you're just jealous of our lives, our money, and our access to white women. Now, listen, I don't know what any of this has to do with the current scenario at hand. Like I said, man, these guys are crazy. Now, all praise is due to the ancestors. You know, all praise is due to my mother and father. But no, I'm not jealous of your life. By all standards, I come from a family that would be deemed as a prosperous family. Not by black standards or white no, by American standards across the board. I come from a prosperous family. So, you know, when you talk to me, bro, saying I'm jealous of your life, you know, I really, you know, I'm not impressed. And maybe you're unfamiliar with my channel, but I talk about my upbringing all the time. I grew up surrounded by love. I grew up in an excellent environment, you know, safe and cared for, and man, never missed a meal. And as for the women, because this guy said, oh, you're jealous because we have white women. Listen, I only deal with black women. Maybe you're unfamiliar with my channel. I only deal with black women. I love my women. You know, sometimes I might come down with the tough love and I might, you know, make my little videos here and there, but I love my women. I'm never turning my back on the black woman, no matter what I say. No matter what I say, I'm never turning my back on the black woman. It's never going to happen. And here's the crazy part as it relates to, oh, you're jealous because we have white women. Some of your same white women, they actually work for me and my family, because at one of our locations, it's actually located in a white neighborhood, you know, got Russians and Jews and, you know, different demographics, but it's mainly a white neighborhood. So typically, because it's in a white neighborhood, we want the staff to match the neighborhood demographics. So yes, we have white women working in one of our locations, right? White pharmacists, white pharmacy techs. Yes, your women work for me, right? They refer to me as Mr. Nefakar, Mr. Desaline. Yes, sir. Yes, when I call, they pick up the phone. I say, I need you to come in. They coming in. So no, I'm not jealous of your lifestyle and your so-called alleged money that you got and your access to white women, and not interested in your women, not interested in your lifestyle. Listen, like I said, when it comes to black men, you really need to stop basing your stereotypes or your image of black men based on what you've seen in a rap video or some TV show or whatever nonsense you've seen on a movie. And it really shows how limited your worldview is, because why do you think every black man is languishing in poverty or is in need of money and opportunity and he needs access to white women and things like, listen, man, it's many different archetypes of black men from all different walks of life and all different types of backgrounds and cultures. Like black men, I mean, it's an endless variety of black men, right? This box you try to put us all in, it's stupid on your part and it shows your low level of intellect. And on top of that, most of you guys don't even have any home training, right? You guys believe you can go around and assault random pedestrians. So why would I want your life, bro? Like, to me, you're an uncultured barbarian. To me, when I hear the arguments you guys make as to why you believe you should put your hand on somebody, all I see is an uncultured barbarian, you know, and I got to get bougie on y'all. A lot of y'all some barbarians, man. All y'all white conservatives, man, a bunch of barbarians, man, for real. A bunch of uncultured knuckle dragging barbarians, man. I'm sorry. I got to get bougie on them boys, man. Got to get bougie on the ops, man. But yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is, man. Anyway, this person said, it's not complicated. They were both acting stupid and somebody lost their life. This happens thousands of times per year. It's going to be a plea, a giant nothing burger, but it did stir up a ton of racism. Now, that's funny. This is actually a white dude who said that, right? The white dude was like, man, listen, they're both acting stupid. Somebody lost their life. It happens thousands of times per year. That's what I originally thought when the story first came out. And that's why I wasn't going to cover the topic, because that's what I thought, right? But I only covered it once I seen all the white conservative bloggers try to run with a false narrative. That's when I had to jump in and grab my sword and my shield and jump on the battlefield, right? But that's how I feel too. It's not complicated, happens all the time. An aggressor initiates an altercation, he becomes the victim. It is what it is. Now, anyways, man, it's your boy Nefakar Desaline back in the Billy S. Indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel. Support the album, Sahel 1816. Go to my playlist section, and I'm gone. Peace. Tell me she
You know, while in Ethiopia, I was, monitoring the Karmelo Anthony case. And as a lot of you know, Karmelo Anthony, was at a track meet, and you had a guy by the name of Austin Metcalf. He was known to be this bully, him and his brother. And allegedly, Karmelo was sitting in a place that he don't supposed to be. And they told him he shouldn't be there. And they decided to try to put hands on him to make him move. Austin didn't go get a school administrator, didn't get campus police involved, didn't get anybody involved to maybe assist with something or maybe to find out what was right. Austin, being a bully that he is, he decided to try to put hands on Karmelo. Karmelo said, "Hey, man, touch me again and watch what happened." Well, Austin decides to go ahead and put hands on Karmelo, and Karmelo poked him one good time. He poked him in the heart. And that was it. That was it for Austin, right? Now, in Texas, that would definitely go on the line of a stand your ground case, right? Because under Texas law, you have no duty to retreat under Texas law. You can protect yourself from any kind of force that someone is putting on you, according to the stand your ground laws in Texas, right? In school, in kindergarten, we was taught to keep our hands to ourselves. And if Austin would have kept his hands to himself, he would still be alive today. But he didn't follow what he was taught in kindergarten, to not keep his hands to himself, because Karmelo told him, touch me and watch what happened. Now, clearly, when somebody telling you to touch me, in other words, you put your hands on me and watch what happened, that means they're warning you. Don't put your hands on me. But clearly, Austin didn't get the memo until he met a tragic end. Now, Karmelo is sitting in jail with a $1 million bond as of right now. But I'm going to show you the folks here. The folks are upset. Let me show you on the screen why the folks are upset. The folks are upset by this on Give, Send, Go. Now, Karmelo Anthony, as of right now, has raised $406,000 for his defense. The folks are very, very upset by this. They upset because they're saying that this isn't right. Black people, they supported this murderer. Oh, look how sick black people are. Well, let me show you something. This is Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny on the same platform is still receiving money after he got off of the crime. He's still receiving money. I want y'all to see this. As recent as 2 days ago, he received $10. Now, the largest donations that Daniel Penny has received, Tim Pool, which is a podcaster, he sent him, what he sent him $20,000? Vivek Ramaswamy sent him $10,000. All these people was giving, and you remember what Daniel Penny did? He came from behind like a coward and choked the life out of Jordan Neely, right? But these folks were saying, "Oh, well, he was saving people. He was doing this. He was doing that." Right? That's why we need to give this guy $3.3 million. But if Karmelo Anthony receives any dime, all you black people, y'all are just evil. Let me get on the screen and tell you why. Let me tell you why them folks react that way, okay? And let's talk about history for a minute. These people in their DNA believe in the Casual Killing Act. Now you may say, what is that? It's called the Casual Killing Act of 1669, a law that was passed in colonial Virginia. And it said that the law stated that if a white person killed an enslaved a black person while disciplining them, it would not be considered a felony. It said a rationale enslaved black people were considered property, and killing them during punishment was seen as an unintentional incident, hence casual. They said that exact wording said is, if any slave resists his master and by the extremity of the correction should chance to die, the master should be free of all punishment. And this is why they can support Daniel Penny, because wrapped in their DNA is a casual killing act, but not wrapped in their DNA is a black person defending himself. You're supposed to sit here, let them do whatever the hell they want to do to us, right? And even take our life, and we're supposed to lay down and let that happen as black people. How dare you, Karmelo Anthony, defend yourself from a bully and a tyrant? How dare you? How dare you, black people, support Karmelo Anthony no different than they supported Daniel Penny? How dare you? We supposed to be able to take your life at any given time that we want to, for whatever the reason, but you better not defend yourself against us being an aggressor, and then your community better not support that person. That's what that is. Now, let's continue. It said legally protecting slave owners from the consequences they killed an enslaved person while asserting authority. It say it reinforced the idea that enslaved black people were not fully human in the eyes of the law, but rather property. The act was part of a broader system of slave codes designed to maintain control and suppress rebellion. Now, I say about today, it say it highlights how systemic racism and white supremacy were built, and say to the U.S. law early on, shaping the legal and social landscape, and say for centuries. This is why they feel they can do whatever they want to do to black people, and that's it, because it's encoded. See, the culture of anti-black racism, that is encoded. I can do whatever I want to do to black folk, and they can't. They better not say nothing. But the moment they do anything equal to, the moment they say an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, the moment they say that, oh my God, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. Austin should have kept his hands off of Karmelo, point blank. Austin should have got a school administrator, a police officer, somebody to get involved with that situation, because they had people there to get involved, right? This Austin guy was 6'4". Karmelo's a short guy. Heard Austin's father, who was arrested with some sort of SA charge. A lot going on in his family. But if the role was reversed, and if Karmelo would have put his hands on Austin, and Austin told him, if you touch me, watch what happened, and Karmelo would have did it, and Austin would have poked him, them same folks would be like, well, that's self-defense. Well, didn't he tell him not to touch him? Didn't he warn him, touch me and see what happens? So he got what he got what he deserved, because he shouldn't have put his hands on people. Why don't they keep them hands to themselves? Why are they so violent? Right? But when the roles reverse, you're crying holy hell. No. The black community should support Karmelo Anthony just as much so as they supported Daniel Penny. And that is the truth. Karmelo Anthony stood his ground. And him and his family should not feel no way about it. You don't let nobody attack you. Well, what is he doing with a knife? What is he doing with this and that and the third? That knife would never came into play if Austin would have kept his hands to himself. Nothing about what Karmelo was allegedly sitting was warranting physical force. Once again, there were police officers that could have been called. There were school administrators that could have been called. A whole lot could have been done. But you think you run around here can do whatever the hell you want because you part of the folks community, and then you can just mess with black people? See, that's the difference with FBAs. FBA is not going to let you just mess with us like that. Now, you can try that in other parts of the world, They got some other black folks, unfortunately, some of them on the continent, that'll sit up here and let you do whatever you want to. But when you mess with FBAs, it's a little bit different situation. Keep your hands to yourself. Leave FBAs alone. It's just that simple. But all that crying and acting like a victim and talking about black people raising money for, man, y'all better not ever let them say a word to y'all about that. They gave $3.3 million. $3.3 million to Daniel Penny. And then we had the tape of what he did. And people were tapping him, hey, man, let him go. He out, man, let him go. And they still gave to that. Because to them, the Casual Killing Act. So, yeah, as black people, we need to watch this case. We need to watch this case very closely. And not let them pull no, I'm white and I say so on this case. No. If you got to stand your ground law, it works for everybody, right? It's not going to work for one group and the other group can't stand their ground. Keep your hands to yourself. And a lot of these things won't.
Bruh. Oh my goodness. So I want to start off by saying I'm not making it racial. I'm just making an observation, okay? And upon that observation, I would argue that if I were to give you two names, Karmelo Anthony and Nikita Cassap, that the vast majority of y'all would know who Karmelo Anthony is and not know who in the world Nikita Cassap was. And I just find that interesting, okay? For me, I just find that absolutely mind-blowing, just fascinating, okay? Because Karmelo Anthony had a $1 million bail and Nikita Cassap had a $1 million bail. And now we all know what happened with Karmelo Anthony, him claiming self-defense. Regardless if you believe him or not, that's his story. When we have Nikita Cassap, well, let's just say it's not self-defense. let's just go and say that, all right? Karmelo Anthony is black. Nikita Cassap, that's correct. You guessed it, white. Now, Nikita Cassap, he came from a broken household. He was an orphan. He had to fight every day. He then, went to school, and none of that is true. None of that is true. This man, this boy, he came from a loving two-parent household, all right? And the reason why I say that is because you know how much they want to talk about, well, it's a single-parent household with the black people. It's a single-parent house. As I've said before, as I've said ad nauseum, that the stark contrast is if that's what they want to say, the vast majority of the criminals that happen to be white males come from a loving two-parent household, that come from a middle or upper-class upbringing. Just so we're clear, okay? These aren't impoverished white kids going up and, shooting up the schools. That's not what's happening, all right? These aren't impoverished white kids going up and chopping off heads, and that's not what's happening. So I just want to be clear that when it comes to black youth, we can go down the list when it comes to the school-to-prison pipeline. We can go when it comes to education, when it comes to income disparity. We can go through healthcare disparity. We can go a litany of things and explain, okay, this is why that may have been a factor here and there. That's not the same for little Timmy. Okay, that's not the same for little Nikita. Damn. Now, Nikita, I'm just going to tell you what Nikita did. Nikita happened to Thanos snap both of his parents. That's correct. He happened to Thanos snap both of his parents. And the reason why is because he thought that would help him with his financial endeavor. And what he was trying to do was buy a drone and buy explosives. All right. That's what this little domestic terrorist was trying to do. This little white ignorant was trying to do. Yeah. And the reason being is because he also had a manifesto. And in this manifesto, he was pro-Hitler. All right. Very pro-Hitler, white supremacists, white nationalists, and he wanted to do this to save the white race from, his words, Jewish politicians. Now, I don't know what to, did I not have a video talking about this? Did I not have a live stream talking about how there's this?
The small hats are behind this, and he was saying he wanted to kill Trump. This is also another warning to Trump to do exactly what they say, or his ass gonna pay.
This youth, this undereducated youth who is being exploited. That's why when you have people, whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's Steven Crowder, whether it's any of these other individuals who are promoting this drivel, whether these I would say these bad actors who are promoting this filth to the white youth, whether it's Charlie Kirk, okay, talking about DEI, I don't want to get on a plane because it's a black pilot. Listen, these white youth, these white ignorants are extremely impressionable. And it doesn't take very much to go down this rabbit hole and then they lose all hope, okay? They become doomers. They thinking, oh, I'm not gonna get a white girl because, the Jewish propaganda is telling them to get with black and brown people. Oh, and then the schools, I'm gonna be discriminated against. And they build up, it's like the meme, they build up this fortress of fear of things that haven't happened and will never happen. And they just live in this constant fear. Roland Martin wrote a great book about it, White Fear. And because they are in such a state of fear, they lash out. They lose their minds. And unfortunately, these youth are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because once they start looking at, as far as the mental health situation, how they're skyrocketed per capita, when you start looking at the demographics, how it's declining, the birth rates for them per capita, astronomical numbers, and everything starts to add up. And they can't help but get into this fight or flight scenario. Their body gets crippled by fear. So then you have people like this, as we saw before in Buffalo, 2 white boys. This is what happens to them, and they get radicalized. And now we have a whole bunch of domestic terrorists. Hence why the FBI said that, hey, these white supremacy groups are some of the most dangerous because they are radicalizing the poor white youth into thinking that they're victims. This narrative that the Republican Party, the right, is promoting and indoctrinating these white kids is a mindset of victimhood. That, hey, woe is me. There's nothing I can do because of my Jews. That's the mindset that they have. And they're like, well, it's the Jews that are controlling the blacks, that are making them hate us because they hate us because we're white. That's why, because we're better than them. I'm telling you, it's a severely twisted mindset that he got, bro. And it's sad because a lot of them are, as I've said before, they all have some type of deformity about them, whether it's mentally or physically. And it's unfortunate because they lose all hope and they go down this rabbit hole. And this is what happens. And then they get into the Nazi and everything. They get into Nazi splaining and Hitler wasn't that bad. And well, how many Jews actually did happen in the Holocaust? All this goofy stuff, bro. All this goofy stuff that if they simply just worked out, weren't weirdos and had a social life, all that would disappear. All that would disappear. As I've said before, black men, you are responsible, okay? You are responsible for the decline of this country. We are responsible for people like Nikita. You have got to adopt an incel. That is your job in this country. Every black man out there, you have got to adopt an incel, all right? An incel a day keeps the domestic terrorists away. That's how that works, bro.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Because if they were busy, being cool and popular and doing good with women and making money, they wouldn't be worrying about Hitler. They wouldn't be worrying about, white supremacy. They wouldn't be worrying about the Jews. They wouldn't be worrying about that, bro. They'd be worrying about, how do I get a business, bro? How do I make Jewish friends so I can get into the pipeline and get into their manufacturing and everything? They'd be worried about their upline and their downline. That's what they'd be worrying about. But instead, these mofos is got fear on their mind, bro. You have a duty in this country to adopt the incel because you see what happens. Huh? To top off this stupid Sunday is that this mofo did all of this in hopes of assassinating President Trump. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. This is all what he was planning to do. He already did the first half of Thanos snapping the parents. You tell me why he got $1 million bail as the same as Karmelo Anthony. You explain that one to me, huh? I'm not making it racial. I'm just making an observation. How are those two the same? It doesn't make any sense to me. But nevertheless, nevertheless, I want you to understand that when you have a Nikita Cassap, Cougar for Cocoa Puffs, that they'll probably argue that, hey, he's not mentally, it's a mental health issue. That's what it is. It's always that. It's never having to do as far as him being the poster child or the representation of the group. Do you ever notice that? When you have a Carmelo Anthony, well, he's a representation of all black people. All right. Well, look at him. That's just how they are. When you have someone like Nikita Cassap, it's like, well, something probably happened to him. He's a poor kid. Something he'd probably just snap. They have all the excuses. All right. As Paul Mooney would say, you have Nikita Cassap says, what happened to you? Well, I just went off because I got depressed and, I just deleted the family. That's what happened. And the judge goes, oh, okay, I understand. We'll have to study that. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe you're going through some things. But yeah, we're going to put you on, house arrest. That's what we're going to do, okay, until we figure it out. And then you have the black person who's like, they were kept messing with me. I defended myself. That's what it is. I told them, hey, touch me and see what happens. And that's what they did. And, so I defended myself. That's what happens. And the judge goes, oh, really, nigga? Is that what happened? Yeah, you were defending yourself. That's right. Okay, yeah. Well, you're going to have to defend yourself in prison, okay, from Bubba, all right, who's been eyeing you, because we're going to give you life. Bam! And hits the gavel.
Wake up, nigga.
That's what happens. That's what happens. You'll never hear them talk about, hey, it's a cultural problem with white people. It's never a cultural problem with them, right? It's always, well, this is the individual. This is the individual. It's always that. That's always the case with them. Because if we were to treat this the same way they treat our black victims, we would simply say, well, it seems that there's a certain group of people based off of pattern recognition that seem to be low IQ and have low impulse control, and also seem to be susceptible to conspiracy theories. That's what it seems to be. And it seems that these people are a threat to the populace. That's what it seems. It seems that they're a threat to civilization in and of itself. I mean, what type of person goes to a grocery store and starts just airing it out, right? What type of person just offs the parents like this? Do y'all remember that one individual, that one dude who had his father's his head, he was holding it? Do y'all remember that? And he had it on camera? Do y'all remember that? Mum's a word, right? Nothing about culture, nothing about, what's wrong with these people? They need to be locked up. They're savages. They're animals, okay? They're so violent. Nothing about that. So I just find it very interesting, just the contrast when it comes to covering certain individuals and then other individuals. So just putting that out there. But yeah, when it comes to this kid, I think this story is egregious. I think everyone should know Nikita Cassap. They should definitely know him more than Carmelo Anthony. But this is how the country works.
So let's look a little deeper into who this psychopath is that the news not really talking about, that wanted to assassinate Donald Trump, but in order to get the finances to do this dastardly deed, he had to kill his mama and his stepdad. And then he would have the life insurance money to kill Trump.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today, I will analyze the case of Nikita Cassap. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Nikita Cassap was born on September 19, 2007, and lived in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He went by the name Nicky. He lived there with his mother, Tatiana Cassap, his stepfather, Donald Mayer, and a dog named Toby. The family had a 3,000 square foot 4-bedroom house on Cider Hills Drive. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On February 28, 2025, at 9:45 a.m., Donald's mother, Judith Mayer, requested a welfare check for her son and his family. She indicated that she had not been in contact with Donald for weeks. She also said that Nikki's high school contacted her and said that he had not been there for over 2 weeks. At 9:50 a.m., a school resource officer at the high school that Nikki attended also requested a welfare check. The officer indicated that the school had received one email claiming Nikki was sick, but they could not confirm where that email came from. At 10:11 a.m., the police arrived at the Cassap family house on Cider Hills Drive, but nobody answered the door. The police checked automated license plate recognition cameras, which had been installed in the area. They learned that Donald's 2018 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport was last seen on February 23, 2025. Tatiana's 2019 BMW was last seen on February 11. The police contacted Donald's employer and spoke to his manager, who indicated that Donald had been exchanging text messages with him from February 13 to February 25. The messages said that Donald was sick and could not speak on the phone. He would not be back to work until March 3. The manager indicated this was very unusual and he was worried about Donald's well-being. At 1:52 p.m., still on February 28, 2025, the police made entry into the Cassap family house. In the garage, they found Tatiana's BMW, but Donald's Volkswagen was missing. The odor of human decomposition was detected right away by the officers. Tatiana's body was found under a pile of clothes and blankets in the hallway near the kitchen. She had been shot 3 times in total, twice in the stomach and once in the neck. Tatiana was 35 years old. At this point, the police exited the house to obtain a search warrant. When they re-entered at 5 p.m., after getting the warrant, they found Donald's body in the first-floor office. He had been shot 1 time in the back of the head. Donald was 51 years old. There was no sign of 17-year-old Nikki or the family dog Toby. Many items were out of place in the house. For example, artwork had been taken down off the walls. The mattress in the master bedroom had been removed from the box spring. Drawers were open. Closets had been rifled through. The contents of the drawers and closets were strewn about the residence, and several empty bank envelopes were found in the kitchen. Using cell phone data and video surveillance, the police discovered that Nikki left town in his stepfather's Volkswagen on February 23, 2025. He had driven through many states, including Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, and Kansas. On February 28, at 11:25 p.m., Nikki was arrested in Waukene, Kansas, after the police performed a traffic stop. This is 822 miles west of Waukesha, Wisconsin. On the floorboard of the Volkswagen, the police found a Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum revolver. It matched the description of a weapon Donald had recently purchased. They also found ammunition for the revolver, driver's licenses, and credit cards belonging to Nikki's parents, over 70 pieces of jewelry worth over $14,000, 7 tablets, 4 cell phones, 3 laptops, a safe which had been pried open, over $14,000 in cash, and the family dog, Toby. The police believe that Donald and Tatiana had been killed on February 11, 2025, 17 days before their bodies were discovered. Nikki had left town on February 23, which means that he spent 12 days in the house with the bodies of his parents. Nikki was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, 2 counts of hiding a corpse, 2 counts of theft, operating a motor vehicle without the owner's consent, and 2 counts of identity theft. At the time I'm making this video, he is working his way through the legal system toward his trial. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. The police spoke to a female classmate of Nikki's who reported that Nikki communicated with her via social media in December 2024 and January 2025. Here's what she said. Nikki sent her gory images. He told her that he had a happy childhood, but wanted to know how it felt not to exist. And he mentioned how he was planning to kill his parents by shooting them, but then said not to worry because he was not going to follow through with this plan. Nikki's alleged communication with this classmate is consistent with him trying to find an audience for his disturbed beliefs. He was not planning the murder of his parents in secret. Rather, he announced his plans. This brings me to item number 2. Investigators found messages in Nicky's phone that he exchanged with an unidentified person in Russia. Nicky was contemplating fleeing to Ukraine and had questions about what could happen. For example, he asked how long he would need to hide before moving to Ukraine, and he wrote, quote, "So while in Ukraine, I'll be able to live a normal life, even if, when it's found out, I did it," unquote. These messages make it clear that Nicky wanted to escape the consequences of his homicidal behavior, but he acknowledged that people would find out that he was the killer. He was unrealistic about starting a new life in Ukraine, but realistic as far as people discovering that he was guilty. Nicky did not try to frame anyone else for the murders. He did not make one of his parents look like the perpetrator. There was no fabrication of an alibi. He knew full well that the world would assign the blame for the killings to him. Item number 3. When the police examined the Cassap family house, they found that the contents of drawers and closets had been pulled out and thrown on the floor. They also found bank envelopes, which presumably contained cash. It appears as though the money had been hidden all over the house, and Nicky was aware of this. He also knew about expensive jewelry that his parents owned. While he was on the run, he used his parents' credit and debit cards to make purchases. The revolver that was used in the murders was purchased by his stepfather. Inadvertently, Donald gave Nicky everything that he needed to kill him and his wife and go on the run. Why did his parents have so much cash in the house? Why did they give Nicky access to a revolver? There's the sense that his parents may have been worried about something, like running out of money or being attacked by intruders, but they should have been worried about a threat that was closer to home. Item number 4. The police examined a memory card that was found in a camera that Nicky had trained on the body of his stepfather. In the office where the body was found, Nicky had lit candles. On February 20, 9 days after the murders, the camera captured Nicky enter the office where Donald's body was. He could be seen holding a phone in his right hand and bending over his stepfather's body, as if he was recording a video or taking a photograph. Nicky could be heard saying, quote, "So you can see him there. I can literally see the blanking, rotten body there," unquote. Who was Nicky speaking with? The unidentified Russian person? Someone else? Regardless of who it was, this further supports the theory that Nicky was not concealing the fact that he was the killer. He was advertising it. Item number 5. At the time I'm making this video, Nicky maintains the presumption of innocence, but I don't think he is going to fare well if his case goes to trial. The evidence against him is overwhelming. His only hope might be some type of defense based on mental health. Perhaps his attorneys will argue that he was paranoid or psychotic. Even with a mental health defense, Nicky's chances are still low. One could argue that he was having some type of existential crisis consistent with depression. Other than that, there is no evidence of any mental health symptoms, much less those severe enough to reduce his culpability in the killings. Instead, it appears as though Nicky was thinking clearly when he planned to shoot his parents, followed through with this plan, impersonated his stepfather to explain his stepfather's absence from work, prepared to move to Ukraine, and drove across several states to escape law enforcement. With this in mind, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Nicky murdered his parents because he was greedy. He wanted their money. He knew that it was stashed all around the house, but he would have to kill them in order to take it. When his stepfather obtained a .357 Magnum revolver and made it available to Nicky, he realized he now had a way to make his dreams come true. After the murders, Nicky lived in the family house as long as he could. He was not dissuaded by the horrendous odor of human decomposition. It did not bother him to go to sleep each night in a house occupied by corpses. Nicky only fled when he realized people were noticing that he and his parents were missing. He did not want to be there when law enforcement started investigating. Now moving to my final thoughts. The lesson learned in this case is that a child can be a very effective assassin. Parents rarely suspect that one of their children is going to murder them. Preparations made to defend against outside threats like hiding cash and having a firearm, can backfire in the presence of homicidal offspring. If there were subtle signs of danger that Donald and Tatiana should have recognized, they have not been reported. Clearly, Nikki was thinking about the murders for a while, so there probably was some indication that something was wrong. I doubt these murders came out of the blue. Parents often ignore red flags exhibited by their children because they want to think the best of them. This attitude is understandable, but it can be less than pragmatic if the child is inclined to kill. Those are my thoughts in the case of Nikita Cassap. Thank you.
Videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. Somebody tagged me in a video yesterday, and it had to do with this amazing breakdown about what took place at Trump's rally on July 13th. They did some amazing connecting the dots. They brought forward new information, new news information, and they are extremely convinced that the person on the roof was none other than Maxwell Yerrick and not Thomas Matthew Crooks. No matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or you don't believe in politics, you're the type of person that believes that both wings are operated by the same head, there was still something very strange about that news story. Maxwell Yerrick's name was ablaze on social media, to the point so many people were talking about it and saying that it was him on the roof that multiple fact-checking websites had to come out and tell us, no, it wasn't Maxwell Yerrick, it was Thomas Matthew Crooks. Still, many people did not believe it. Many people still connected those dots. Maxwell Yerrick's social media account was completely scrubbed. And people were like, well, all he has to do is come out and say it wasn't him, and it'll prove it wasn't him because the person on the roof is clearly deceased. This one story is very important due to the fact that this proves that news and media, they lie. They give false narratives. When we know something else to be true, they release their fact checkers from the toilets and sewers they reside in to tell us, no, what you believe is absolutely false. You're just a crazy, kooky conspiracy theorist. Well, if that was Maxwell Yerrick on the roof, then what happened to Thomas Matthew Crooks? Who knows? They disposed of him. They got rid of him because his name is no longer any good. His name is already out there. And I always said that Thomas Matthew Crooks was going to be used in a school pow-pow story. But this is old information. We had already spoken about this multiple times on this channel. Why am I talking about it again? Well, news has come out yesterday that a Wisconsin teen ended the lives of his parents in a plot to end the life of Trump. And guess what? Guess what police just happened to find? They just happened to find, like with every one of these bizarre news stories, the manifesto. His manifesto where he admits to everything, like what we saw with Luigi Mangione. Remember when news first broke out that they captured him at McDonald's and he had with him all this money, these guns, the clothing he wore at the scene, and he had a manifesto detailing what he was going to do. Even though he pled not guilty and said it wasn't him, he just happened to have on him his manifesto admitting to his guilt. When it comes to 17-year-old Nikita Cassap, his manifesto really lays it all out. There's a call to end the life of President Trump, make and detonate bombs, and carry out other terror acts. In the 3-page manifesto, the goal of, to end the life of President Trump is to start a political revolution and promote white supremacy. Isn't it just crazy and convenient and a coincidence that investigators and researchers these days, they don't have to do much work because the entire confession is always right there? But in the case of Thomas Matthew Crooks and Maxwell Yerrick, they had to do a little bit more work because they mixed up those two men. But anyway, continuing to read this article from WISN, it goes on to say that the manifesto investigators found inside the manifesto messages in Russian. Isn't that very convenient? And it goes on to say that in an excerpt from the manifesto, Cassap specifies that ending Donald Trump will create chaos and start the hypothetical revolution. And it goes on to quote, as to why specifically Trump, I think it's pretty obvious. By getting rid of the president and perhaps the vice president, that is guaranteed to bring in some chaos, the manifesto reads, according to the warrant. So this manifesto is basically order out of chaos. Where have I heard that before? Order out of chaos, the age of chaos. Well, isn't it quite interesting as well that the most recent magazine that The Economist just released is this, The Age of Chaos, and on the cover you see Donald Trump. Now, for most of you that have been subscribed to me for quite some time now, you will know that I have featured The Economist magazine on this channel quite often, mainly due to this magazine cover right here, the 2024 Economist magazine cover, The World Ahead. And I pretty much did a big breakdown on this cover, and a lot of events did come to fruition when it came to this magazine cover. Let's also not forget the very eerie 2025 Economist magazine cover, The World Ahead, which also has some interesting symbolism, but we also see this. They go on to say that the raised fist means activism, protest, and revolutionary movements. So yeah, we have this same magazine agency, The Economist, releasing this magazine cover only 4 days before this incident involving this teenager, where his manifesto is again order out of chaos. Now, what's odd is that some articles make it seem like he's pro-Russian, like for example, right here where it says on March 10th, the sheriff's office interviewed a classmate of Cassap, the warrant said. The classmate said Cassap told them he intended to end his parents. He also told them he would befriend someone with a gun and steal it. And he also told them that he was talking to someone in Russia with plans to end the United States government and take out Donald Trump. But then we're told Cassap also apparently had intentions of escaping overseas. In an online chat with a Ukrainian user, the document said Cassap asked the person how long he would have to hide until he was moved to Ukraine and if he'd be able to get a job there. It goes on to quote Cassap by saying, "How long will I need to hide before I will be moved to Ukraine? About 1 to 2 months," he questioned, according to the warrant. So which one is it? Is he pro-Russian or is he pro-Ukraine? Police had also interviewed multiple classmates of Cassap, and they all told these police that Cassap said that if they saw 10 consecutive attacks in the news, that it was him. And nobody thought it was a good idea to tell anybody beforehand what Cassap was saying. I mean, this story is already filled with holes, and it's coming off very similar to Thomas Matthew Crooks and Maxwell Yerrick. And it really reeks of MK Ultra, Project Monarch.
But remember, all of those assassins was tied to Ukraine. See, I said this before. This was another warning to Trump. MK Ultra exactly have him kill his people, but letting Trump know that he could have carried out the assassination on Trump.
Mark, when I was 17, 18 in high school, I never really heard of anybody talk about politics, or to the extent that they wanted to take the president of the United States out to basically cause order out of chaos. News articles are also saying that he's a white supremacist and he wants to take out Trump to cause a race war. And if I did not know this individual's background or his age, I would have swore that this person was 35 or 40, but no, he's 17. Really sounds like he was brainwashed. The manifesto being right there and laying everything out, laying all the details and plans, just makes everything so much more suspicious. Something big is coming. Something really big is coming, and it's going to break the straw on the camel's back. I mean, we were even seeing movies come out about a civil war. They, and of course, when I say they, I'm talking about the so-called powers that be, are working on a narrative and a agenda, because all these stories are starting to not make any sense and are starting to sound the same. And again, they are going to lead to something. So I have been noticing something, and I actually made a post about this yesterday on the conspiracy side of Reddit, that there are some very strange news stories lately involving the number 6. Now, if you're not aware, and I already made a couple of videos on this topic, there will be 6 women supposedly going to space. These 6 women include Katy Perry, Gayle King, and Jeff Bezos' fiance, Lauren Sanchez. I believe this trip is scheduled for today, this morning, so by the time I upload this video to YouTube, this trip will already have been completed. Now, there is nothing bizarre and strange about this story outside of the fact of how Gayle King was acting. She was acting like she did not want to go. she was being forced to go. It seemed like she needed confirmation that everything was going to be okay. To the point that people were coming out and saying it seemed like somebody was putting a gun to her head and forcing her to go, that Oprah may sacrifice her. But like I said in my last video, while this does seem very strange, her reaction, this will be nothing more than a photo op. But going back after the launch had taken place and reading some of the comments, some people are making good points by saying, like this person right here, and not one onboard camera to watch them. This being such a big thing, and they didn't think of putting a camera inside. What a joke. Another person said it's probably fake. This person right here said they had a cabin camera for the Shatner launch, so this is a little fishy. And that is true. You would think there would be a camera inside capturing their reactions. Another person said, how do we know they were even in there? And this one last comment says, by the way, if we see no video of them in the cabin and then during splashdown, it didn't happen. Just such a very weird story. What was the true purpose behind this? Who knows what they're really truly doing? But like I said, the only reason why people were talking about it and why the story came off strange was how Gayle King was acting. The only video footage we have of them is where the pod is already on the ground and they're seen exiting the pod. I mean, the whole thing is just BS. Who is really buying this? Then on Thursday, April 10th, we had a news story come out where 2 American Airlines planes at the Ronald Reagan National Airport, an airport that has been featured quite often in the news lately. These 2 planes had clipped their wings, and there were exactly 6 members of Congress on board the plane. Then on that exact same day in New York, we had a helicopter, a Bell 206, with exactly 6 people on board crash, and all of these people had lost their lives. Then a couple days later, we had another crash in New York, this time involving a small plane with 6 people on board, and all 6 people had lost their lives. These people were Corinna Groff, a former MIT soccer player, once named the NCAA Woman of the Year. The other people on board this plane were her family members, her father, Michael Groff, who was a neuroscientist, her mother, who was a urogynecologist, her brother, her brother's partner, and her boyfriend. This family has a very interesting background. Michael Groff, Corinna's father, was an associate professor of neurosurgery at Harvard Medical School, was also appointed executive medical director of neuroscience at Rochester Regional Health last summer. So in certain factors, he could be seen as another CEO or another top executive who just lost his life in another aviation incident. Just like the girl in the helicopter crash who was celebrating her birthday, Corinna Groff was also celebrating her birthday as well. Now, they don't say what caused the crash, but I do find this tidbit to be rather interesting that they would include this. It goes on to say that during the C-19, Corinna Groff co-founded Open PPE, helping to create a new design for mask for essential workers. Just like Agustin Escobar, who was the CEO for the technology group Siemens, who lost his life in that helicopter crash, Corinna, she co-founded MIT Slums and Informal Settlements Research Group, which has to do with technology. Now, this group, they do a lot of different research into different viruses and diseases and the impact of these viruses and diseases in certain locations. Matter of fact, one of the last things she was heavily researching was the impact of the C-19 in slums. Now, look, it's very possible that nothing shady is going on here when it comes to this plane crash. Planes crash, that's true. But I said this a couple of videos ago. Today, news just came out that a small plane crashed in Boca Raton, Florida, ending the lives of 3 people on board that plane. And I was just thinking to myself, we are hearing that these small planes are crashing left and right. Who is really on these small planes? Who do they work for? What do they know? Because like I said, it's just happening way too frequently. And all it takes is a bird strike or a drone to end the lives of everybody on board these planes. Going back to Terry Dolan, so like I said, it could just be the simple fact that this plane had crashed, but there's always these very interesting parts in these plane crash stories. These people seem to have very interesting backgrounds that make you go, So then I really started to get suspicious when this news broke out yesterday. I'm reading this from KUT.org. It was published on April 13th. It's titled, 6 Injured in Northwest Austin Explosion That Damaged 24 Homes. So there was an explosion in Austin, Texas yesterday, and like they say, 24 homes were damaged. 6 people were injured.
Hell? Something just blew up. Rattled the windows on my apartment.
And yes, the camera just happens to pan by slow enough so we can see the magic number 33. So we know what kind of story that we're dealing with here. The article I'm reading from does go on to say that the cause of the blast is currently under investigation by the Travis County Fire Marshal. Officials at the scene said the neighborhood has no underground gas lines, but the newly constructed home that exploded did have propane tanks. Now, even if that were true, how many propane tanks did this one home have to cause all this damage? 24 homes damaged and 6 people injured. Now, it could be the fact that a lot of these homes just received minor damages, but continue to read this news article here. It says that a neighboring home suffered enough damage to possibly collapse the home. Another person who was a good distance away, their house was a good distance away, they are currently in critical condition and their home is on verge of collapse. The propane tank angle is just a theory to them. Again, they are not 100% sure what caused this very powerful explosion, but there are a lot of people leaving comments in multiple videos that this may have something to do with smart meters, which, if you remember, was a very strong theory when it came to the Los Angeles fires. Matter of fact, there was a video that came out, a news clip, where people were actually suing because PG&E smart meters were either exploding or they were catching on fire. And yes, Austin, Texas do use smart meters for both electricity and water, which is also interesting because I made a video a few months back where I said that it looks like Austin, Texas may be next when it comes to a major wildfire like what we saw with Los Angeles. The reason why I made that video was because I was noticing very suspicious articles directly after the Los Angeles fires. And remember, people were putting 2 and 2 together when it came to LA Smart City 2028. Like, take, for example, this article here that's titled, "Wildfires Wreaked Havoc in Los Angeles. Some experts say Austin could be next." With increasingly hot weather and topographical features that resemble those in parts of Southern California, the booming Texas metropolis ranks 5th among United States cities threatened by wildfire. And that's all the articles I was seeing, how Austin will be next. And yes, just like Los Angeles, just like North Carolina, just like South Carolina, that have been seeing a abundance of wildfires, Austin, Texas is indeed in the Smart City Challenge. Matter of fact, there are news articles that come out that say that Austin is the #1 city in America for a smart city future. And that is what I have been noticing. All these locations that are in the Smart City Challenge have been impacted heavily by these quote-unquote natural disasters like Myanmar. Myanmar had that very bad earthquake, but it's also in the Smart City Challenge. But eventually it's going to be everywhere where they are destroying what's old and rebuilding what's new, because almost every location around the world, not just in the United States, has a long-range transportation plan, whether it's 2030, 2035, 2040, 2050, and so forth. It's just that these current locations are going to be the smart cities first because they are in the challenge to become the first smart cities. Is it possible certain meters are rigged to explode at certain times? I mean, it was a very strong theory, like I said, when it came to the Los Angeles fires. And with all this strange and crazy news that's going on around the world, sometimes I sit back and ask myself, what is CERN doing? What has CERN been up to? Well, looking this up further, apparently there is a biblical addition coming to CERN. And isn't that crazy? Isn't that just nuts? These people of science, supposedly science, no connection to religions or any gods and so forth, they are adding something biblical to CERN. But let us go ahead and read into this further. Other news articles, news agencies are talking about this. I'm reading this from interestingengineering.com, which was published on April 10th. It's titled, $44 million detector sitting above the LHC may catch the universe's most elusive particles. With $44 million and a biblical namesake, this detector could uncover new laws of physics. The article goes on to say that Methuselah is an acronym for Massive Timing Hodoscope for Ultra-Stable Neutral Particles. named after Methuselah, the biblical figure said to have lived nearly 1,000 years. Methuselah is a towering detector that aims to spot long-lived particles that slip past existing detectors, potentially unlocking physics beyond the known universe. It also goes on to say that the world's largest particle collider is getting a religious makeover, but not the kind involving holy water or divine intervention. The detector is set to work alongside the upgraded high luminosity LHC, which will increase the facility's luminosity by a factor of 10 and increase the number of Higgs bosons, which is the God particle CERN physicists will be able to study. The upgrade should be finished by 2029, right before the 2030 agenda. But get this, the Methuselah will consist of a massive box, which would be 131 feet, 40 meters on each side, and 36 feet, 11 meters tall. This box will contain nothing but air and several detectors that will spot long-lived particles that have so far ghosted the Large Hadron Collider's main detectors. Around the inside, there would be rows of sensors to catch particle signals. It would sit about 330 feet, there we go, 100 meters away from the main collider beam. Dirt and rock would lie between the two, helping block unwanted background noise. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Methuselah will be ready to go in 2029 alongside the upgraded LHC to open us up to a whole new world of physics. And do you notice when it comes to these particles, they name them gods, demons, ghosts, specters, and so forth. And they add the word particle at the end to make it seem like science. Must be one big coincidence. But in any case, thank you so much for
Cool thing. Follow me.